Thanks again for joining me and taking an interest in your local politics and governance. We're going to have to go fast today. I don't have a lot of time to spare as it is, and this is a big one. This is probably one to pay some attention to. So I'm going to flip everything upside down and we're going to start at the bottom with probably the least controversial items. So, well, not exactly in reverse order, but let's just get into it. So first there's a couple road closures. So there's one here on McTavish Avenue between 10th Street and 11th Street. That's mostly for the BPS station, so I think that's been discussed before, so I won't cover it here any further. There's another one on McTavish Avenue East. This looks like Gardwine's property. I'm not entirely sure the owner or occupier of this property, but it just looks like a probably acting as a private road for most intents and purposes, so closing it off officially. That's sort of my read on the situation. So that's it for road closures. On the subject of debt, we have borrowing funds for the purpose of new stormwater infrastructure in the southeast. So there's the documentation there. You can certainly go take a look. This comment I'm making applies to both of these two items to do with finances. Interest and amortizing costs over a long period of time definitely increases your costs, as you can see there. And then there's borrowing funds for an outdoor aquatics facility. The location of this is not set in stone yet. Sounds like it's probably going to be the Keystone Center, but all those details are to be seen. And once again, similar sort of theme. $6 million principal, $2.4 million in interest. I did some rough calculations. It's a like 30% increase of your total cost. So that's the cost of borrowing. Under rezoning and subdivisions, first there's a rezoning on 8th Street, 8th Street in Richmond approximately. So this property here is going from residential low density to RMD. That has already been before the Planning Commission. We will see how that is presented tonight at Council. Then another one is a subdivision for 2940 Victoria Avenue. It'll become pretty obvious if you look at the photos that are included and the graphs. It's basically a lot of unused property within a parking lot here on a commercial property along Victoria Avenue. And there's also, maybe I didn't go into the details here, but yes, there is a rendering of what the development would look like if the subdivision is approved. I think it may require rezoning or not a rezoning. Yeah, a rezoning or a variance. Not entirely sure on the technical details there, but there's lots of information there on that project if you're interested in that. There's a report and a policy update regarding accessible customer service. So if accessibility is of interest to you, that may be worth a read or a review. I will not be reviewing this one. On to the main item. The main item is, of course, the council compensation review, which also is going to get into the matters of are you having full-time counselors, part-time counselors, etc. So one thing I'm going to note here is when I quickly checked the city agenda shortly after it was published, there were 2 linked attachments. As of right now, there's only one. It appears that maybe there's a visual bug in the document. I'm not totally sure. It appears that there's another presentation file here. I did not look at this one. The one I'm using and I've already taken a quick peek at is this one instead. They appear to be the same URL. I'm just learning this live, so not entirely sure why the text here is almost invisible, but use that information as you will. So under the council report, again, I'm going to skim this. This probably deserves a lot of scrutiny. This report alone is 34 pages long. This presentation is 13 pages, which we'll almost certainly see some of tonight and hear more about from administration. But we have here a recommendation from administration that council direct administration to draft a new council compensation bylaw, council expense policy, and repeal the ward bylaw. Budgetary impact will take effect on January 1st, 2027, i.e. after the election, and be included in 2027's operating budget. And again, 34 pages. I'm not going to be able to do this justice, but again, from skimming and highlighting some things I saw previously, we have effective January 1st, 27, and every January 1st until 2030, the mayor's salary be increased by 3%. Effective, again, all these dates are mostly January 1st, 2027, so I won't repeat them. Councillor annual base compensation be calculated at 30% of the mayor's annual base. The position of the mayor remain full-time, positions of councilors remain part-time. Councilor positions be reduced from, I think this is a typo, we have 10 councilors for 11 total members of council to 9, and then amending the organizational bylaw to insert that council shall be the mayor and 8 council members. So it's technically from 10 to 8 if it's a reduction of 2. Then also identifying 4 equitable city districts for the purpose of appointing 2 council representatives. Those details, I'm not sure what those would look like. Again, lots of information in here. Some of it is, of course, duplicated in the presentation, as you would expect, but I'm trying to remember if there's some other things that had caught my eye that I highlighted. I think there was at least one. Yes. So again, under recommendations for what would the election look like, administration to draft a bylaw to repeal ward boundaries bylaw number 7332 in advance of May 1st, 2026. And then there's some other background or information here that in an at-large system, all members are elected by and accountable to the entire municipality. So what I'm kind of reading between the lines here is that there's still going to be some number of wards, though I may have misunderstood. Again, this is all fresh news, so I don't have all the information available to me. But this sounds like there's going to be, I thought I had read somewhere that was 4 equitable wards that they were referring to. Was that under the summary? Yes, 4 equitable city districts. Okay, so the way I'm interpreting this now live is there will be 4 districts, not wards, but you might think of them as wards as we have them today. And then of the 8 elected or acclaimed council members, there will be 2 per district. That's how I'm sort of reading that this would be, but I could of course be wrong. At first I thought there was a hybrid where there was a portion of councilors directly elected to a ward or district and then 2 which are appointed, but now I'm not so sure. So as it says here, May 1st, 2026, in order to have everything in stone prior to the, I guess it's probably Elections Manitoba cutoffs if I had to guess, but I'm not an expert on the technical details there, so I could be wrong. And again, there's some survey information here from members of council themselves. Apparently only 6 responded. And there's also a map of the current wards with their respective populations. So you can see they kind of float between, I didn't review this before, but it looks like the low end is Ward 9 at 5,026 population. Going up to probably the high end is Ward 7 at almost 7,000. One question that one should keep in mind is, what does population mean? It may be reported inside this report. It's not sure if that's population in terms of just humans, or does that mean electors? Because, for example, someone under the age of 18, they're not an elector, so they don't have a political influence, so to speak, in an election. Oh, sorry, I was mistaken. The top ward for population is Ward 6 at over 7,000. I missed that. That makes sense now that I say it out loud. Then once again, there's this presentation, which almost certainly feel free to review and take a look at. Again, I think some of these graphs we see in the presentation are also in this report. Yes, I'm not sure if these are all exactly the same, but probably there's some duplication there. Then there's, in this presentation and in this slide deck that I'm not certain I saw when skimming the report, are also some tables of the financial figures over both the current year and future years, and also the new council term. So again, lots of detail, comparisons between the other municipalities. There's a few alternative recommendations, but they don't seem to be too substantial apart from this. First one of potentially, instead of a set base plus an increase, instead setting the mayor's salary at 67% of a Manitoba cabinet minister approved April 1st of the previous year. So that's one other option available. And then of course it just goes through some of the bylaw requirements, the legislative changes that would be required in order to take effect for the 2026 general election. Then a repeat of the recommendations. That's the end of the slide deck. So as always, a very condensed version of what's to come. I of course recommend take a look at everything yourself, use your critical thinking, come to your own conclusions. But I think that's all for this one. Thanks again.